So, what would you little maniacs like to do first?
Excuse me. Sorry about that. Have allergies. Hey, Lashy Kids and Driving Mutants. How are you doing this hump day? I myself am tired. And let me know if you can hear me. So, sound check. Check one, check two. Let me take this banner down. Thank you. I would have to sneeze right when the show is about to start. That would be me. Oh, which means that you could hear me, so I don't have to wait for the sound check, I think. Let me know if there's any sound issues going forward. I'm going to start with From, which is on Epix, and you can watch Epix through Amazon Prime. Episode 3. The episode is called Choosing Day. And I don't have as many visuals to show you today. Actually, I don't have any visuals to show you today. Because when you go on IMDb and you look at the visuals that they uploaded for promo, they're mostly from just the first episode. So I'd actually have to screen capture the images from the episode, and I was too tired to do that. I'm sorry. I apologize. I was too tired to do the screen capture, so it's just going to be mostly talking. Before I get started, I see a couple people in here. Where are you watching from, out of curiosity? Like what state or country or region? And are you at work or at home? Tony Man says, laptop keeps freezing here. I'm using my phone. This is driving me crazy. Yeah, that's what just happened to me. That's why I put that I was having a technical issue, because my laptop froze momentarily. It was really weird, and it had this like weird pixelation, but then it went back to normal. Hopefully it's not just an alien entering our atmosphere. And I got to kind of do this fairly quickly because I think there's a thunderstorm on the way. So let me get to it. Episode 3 starts with Tabitha, who, if you remember, was the mother from the Winnebago. She has a dream about those creatures. And then after that, we see Jade, who was the gentleman that was in a car accident, who was high as shit off of whatever the hell he was on. I think it was ecstasy because the way he was acting, but it could have been something else. I'm not super familiar with drugs like that, but he was high off his ass. He wakes up chained to a bed and starts screaming because he doesn't know what the hell's going on. Frank, the dude, if you remember, who did not nail the window shut and lost his wife and his daughter because of that, because he was drunken on the floor in the bar. He's locked up at what on the outside it's the post office, but they've actually changed the post office of the town into a jail, and that's where Boyd works as a sheriff. So he's got Frank, I almost called him Jack, Frank locked up in a cell because they're deciding what to do with him because now he's a danger because he doesn't listen about how to keep those creatures out. Incidentally, Boyd does tell him not to take it personally because if it was anybody else, he'd have the same reaction. He would do the same thing to him. Donna, the woman who's running the what is it called? I want to call it commune house, not commune house. Colony house. Donna, who runs Colony House, is trying to explain to Jade what's going on, but he does not believe her at all. He thinks that his friend or boyfriend is not explained what the relationship he has with the other gentleman was, whether they were partners or whether they were just friends. We don't know. But either way, Jade thinks that the other guy set him up to be part of a practical joke or like an elaborate escape room scenario, but instead of it being a room, it's like a miniature town. So he's going to be a problem for a little while because he's not believing anything. And I don't know what they're going to, well, I do know because I finished the series, but if you've only got to this point, you won't know what they're going to do with him to figure out or to get him to believe, rather. Little Ethan, remember we left off at the end of episode 2 with Ethan seeing the boy in white outside the window. He's still seeing the boy in white all over the place. So that's a thing that hasn't been explained just yet. Is the little boy in white a ghost? We don't know. It could be just an aberration, a figment of Ethan's imagination, or he could actually be like a friendly ghost. We bounce around to Victor, who, if you remember, was the gentleman with the button up shirt who acts very strangely. Um, he is outside counting the trees or measuring the trees to see if they have moved. And everybody's like, what is he talking about if the trees have moved? Obviously, that's going to be something that's going to come back up in the series, but it's really, really interesting. Father Khatri, let me rephrase it. Yeah, Father Khatri, he takes the family around the town and he tells them that they basically get a choice of where they want to live. Whether they want to live in the house, which formerly the little girl and her mother got killed in, and the bloodstains are still there, or they can live at Colony House. He also shows them like where the diner is and how the food is rationed, so they'll have to come to the diner for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and how eventually they will receive jobs because everyone in the town has a duty in order to keep the town running. Um, I don't know if you remember little thin Sarah with the long hair. Her brother's trying to get her to stay home because obviously she's acting hella weird. So her brother's like, you need to just stay home because something's not right. But Sarah insists that she needs to go and work at the diner, which is her duty. Also, I forgot to mention while Father Khatri is taking the Matthews family around town, he explains to them about the talisman and how they must use the talisman to keep the creatures out at night. He also tells him about the punishment for not following the rules in the town, which is being locked inside of a box overnight. And I think that's the thing. Oh, let me stop and take a comment here. Tony says, me personally would take the house. I'm not trying to live with 57 people in one bathroom. Yeah, that's a good point. I think I would take the house also because of the amount of people in Colony House. You don't know when somebody's going to crack and open the window for one of those things. Like you have no idea, like where somebody could forget. There's too many people for there to be an error. So I probably would choose the house. I wouldn't stay. I mean, obviously, I would stay in a room with the blood in it, and I probably would never get around to cleaning the blood up. I would just lock that door and pretend that room doesn't exist. But I think I would be safer in that house than in Colony House. And also the open screwing that people were doing. Like you can't have You could have. I don't want to judge people's lifestyles because everybody's different, but to me it would not be conducive to the way I would want to raise my children, to have these random people screwing out in the open every night, which seems to be what was happening at Colony House. So yeah, I would probably go to the small house in the town too. Slap some paint on the walls, it's all right. Blood, I think blood will come through paint if you don't clean it up. I mean, I've never painted over blood before, but I don't know, I wouldn't know how to clean that up. Okay, what happened? Um why did Frank and Boyd go into the woods? That's right, Frank wanted to visit Megan, his daughter. I think that's his daughter, or maybe it was his wife. He wanted to visit Megan's favorite spot in the woods before he received his punishment, which now we know because Father Kotri explained it to the Matthews family what's going to happen to Frank. He's going to be locked in that box overnight with no talisman. The next person to try to convince Jade about the monsters is Kenny, and Jade still doesn't believe him. He's still on that everybody's playing a game. I'm not believing any of this. I'm in an escape room type of deal. So Jade's character is kind of funny because you want to dislike him because he kind of comes off like an a-hole, but he comes off more what's the word I'm looking for? When a person lacks self-awareness. I don't know what you would call that. Hey Sophia, how are you? And cute avatar, I love that. Sophia says hydrogen peroxide is good, but it will also strip some paint. Try that and some bleach afterwards when it's completely dry. Thank you. I do know that you could use hydrogen peroxide to get blood out of clothes. I learned that from the soccer team when I was in high school. The girls on the soccer team were always getting like blood stains on their socks because they get kicked and their shin guards move and stuff. Model T Unleashed. Hey, welcome. How are you today? And your profile picture looks gorgeous too. I am so happy. I don't know why I feel like happy whenever like people have really cool profile pictures. It makes me feel good. I'm just weird like that. Model T Unleashed says the season of From was the talisman for me. Hmm. I wonder if they started selling those as like, you know how you have horror memorabilia, like what I have horror memorabilia. Oops. Good thing I had that there. They should sell that talisman. I would hang it up. Sophia says hi. And unaware is one way of describing someone that lacks self awareness. Yes, he's very unaware. So I don't think he knows that he comes off as much as a jerk as he does. That's the Jade character. Ethan, actually, little Ethan is a little boy. He ends up talking to Victor, who, it makes sense that because he's a child, he would take Victor more seriously and more at face value with what he's saying about the trees moving. But he asks him also about the little boy in white, which surprises Victor because Victor thinks that he's the only person that's seen the little boy in white. So we know now that both Ethan and Victor, a child and a person who is childlike, both see the little boy in white. And Victor, again, is still talking about if the trees have moved. Tony Man says, I'm afraid to ask how Sophia knows how to remove blood from a wall. Model T says, thanks. We all can use a talisman at this point. Like, who are you telling? Oh my gosh. I was saying the other day that just living in America is an exercise in anxiety. Sophia says that Tony Man, I have experience in dating ex-lovers. Oh, well, hopefully they didn't. I mean, it sounds like they harmed you, and I hope they didn't. But if they did, I am sorry you had to go through that. That's some old BS. I'm trying to not curse that much, but it's gonna slip out sometimes. So be forewarned. Um, what else happened? I'm looking at my notes. If you see me going back and forth, I'm looking at notes because my memory, there's no way I can remember the sequence of events for 4 episodes to talk about today. My brain is too fried for that. And I think what did it was graduate school. Side note, when I was in graduate school, I studied so much on the internet that I literally lost my eyesight for 3 days. Like I couldn't see anything in focus. I went to the emergency room and they were just like, "It's eye strain. It's from just reading and reading and reading and on a computer." And I didn't back then. This was back in 2000 2010, about, yeah, so yeah, a decade ago. We didn't really know so much about the blue light or have blue light glasses and stuff like that, or screen covers, so it just was what it was. But yeah, I think that's what what broke my brain. um Boyd talks to Father Kotri about putting Frank in a box because Boyd really doesn't want to put him in a box. He wants he regrets that they have made that the punishment because he doesn't feel like he can follow through with it. And Father Kotri was basically like, well, the people have to have consequences. And but I think, did Boyd give Frank a talisman? No, he offers him the opportunity to take the talisman and go in the woods, but Frank declines and decides that he deserves to go in the box, so he actually goes in the box willingly. That's wild. At the choosing sort of ceremony, Jade, Tabitha, Jim, and Ethan, they all choose to live in town, in the houses in town. But the teenage daughter, Julie, is like, no, I'm going to stay here in Colony House. It's more fun here, which upsets her parents. And she's like, their mother is like, you're not doing that. You're doing what I tell you to do. But then the town people are like, well, here she's damn near an adult, so she can choose whatever she wants, and they just let it go. Because I think back in deep down inside, they think that she'll probably change her mind after a day or two. But after that happens, Kenny decides that the best way to get Jade to believe is he takes him to go see Toby's dead body. And that's when Jade starts to realize that this is not a joke. This is not an escape room. This is real. And then Frank goes into the box and he gets iced. Like, just this, it's just so wild that he made that choice to go in the box, which is basically like maybe they made it out of a camper or something. It looked like they took half of a Winnebago, or no, what it actually looked like a horse trailer. Those little trailers that they use to transport horses, like if you just have a single horse, that's what it looked like. They took a horse trailer and made that. Tony Man says, trying to find a talisman from Google's confused. Yeah, there's two items that, well, not two, I'm sorry. The other item that's hard to find that I wish that they were selling is the red ruby type crystal from Wishmaster. They should sell that too. I would get one of those. Let's talk about episode 2 of From. It's actually starts with a flashback, and you could tell that it's some years ago. And they show a little boy coming out of a cellar, and he's looking around the town, and he sees the dead bodies everywhere. Then it jumps forward to Boyd cleaning out the box after Frank's death, which is gross. I don't know. It would stink. I was thinking, why would you clean that box out? Because the next person you put in there, they're going to die too. So it's kind of a waste of time to clean it out. But then I guess you don't want the smell of a rotting corpse. So you got to do something about that. He does take Frank's remains to the church. So I guess he's going to have. Although I don't think we saw a funeral for Frank. Did we? I can't remember. The parents from the Winnebago, Tabitha and Jim, um, they feel like they're being punished for something that they've done. Like this is maybe purgatory and they're not really alive anymore. They think possibly they died in the car crash and they're in purgatory. Jim and little Ethan go to the diner, and Jim has a breakdown in the bathroom, which, you know, one would do if you were seriously in that situation. While Victor and Ethan talk about that they actually say that the trees have moved 4 inches closer. And he shows in a picture he drew of the boy in the woods. But then Jim comes back and he gets upset because Victor's talking to Ethan, which he really shouldn't be upset about. But Okay. Model T says, Tony Man 100, I feel ya. And Sophia says, easy solution, even baked meat pies. LOL. Okay. Julie starts talking to Fatima. I keep wanting to call her Fatima because I knew a girl named Fatima, but in the show they call her Fatima, so I'm gonna call her Fatima. Um, she thinks, well, she tells Julie, I'm sorry, Julie tells Fatima that she thinks she made a mistake by staying in Colony House and not going with her parents. But then when her mother comes by to try to get her to come home, her being the stubborn teenager that she is like, nah, I'm good here. So that was just, here we go. Model T Unleashed says, Jim got on my nerves. It's like, calm down. Yes, I agree. He was doing too much. And his hair is doing too much too. I kept looking like, what did they do? I don't know if they put these stiff tracks in the back of that actor's hair to make him look like he had longer hair, but something's not right going on his head, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Because it didn't move like regular hair, so I think it was like stiff synthetic little clip-in hair that they put to make him look like he had like a shaggy hairdo instead of just having an actor grow his hair out. Well, maybe he couldn't grow his hair out. Maybe he's kind of balding or something. Who knows? So, um, all right. So Kenny shows Jade a map of where all the people trapped in the town have come from, and that's where we finally learned out why the show is called From. Everyone is from somewhere else that's in that town, with the exception of Jim. I don't think he's actually from anywhere else because we learn by the end of the episode that the little boy at the very beginning of the episode that comes out of the basement seeing all the bodies everywhere is Jim. So I think, not Jim, sorry, Victor. So I think Victor is not actually from anywhere else but that place, or that place, I don't know, or the situation just dropped in the town where he's actually from. So it's very interesting. Let's see. Boyd and Father Khatri have another um, interaction with each other where Father Khatri is trying to tell Boyd to not beat himself up because it's not his fault what Frank did. And it's not his fault the punishment that Frank got, because as a town, they voted on that punishment together. But Boyd still feels guilty because he was the person that had to walk him over to the box. But it's good that Father Khatri was like really comforting Boyd in a way. Okay, let's see. Got some laughs. And could be a lot of actors use hair extensions or wigs, including male stars like Chris Hemsworth. Yeah, Chris Hemsworth is wearing a full lace wig in Thor. It's not that bad. It's, I think, the worst wig that I've seen so far. Although I was not impressed with Scarlet Witch's wig. I just kept, it's the lack of parting space for me. But it did not look as bad as Homegirl from Aquaman. That was like a Party City wig. And I'm like, DC, what do you do? I know you have money. Why do you have this girl running around in this red Party City wig? I was just so disappointed in that. I think some of the best wigs were in the Lord of the Rings movies. Those were some really, really good wigs. Tony Man says the daughter was just as annoying as the daughter from the first season of Fear the Walking Dead. I stopped watching after episode 5. Did you stop watching from after episode 5 or Fear the Walking Dead episode 5? And Sophia says that's the reason I don't like horror movies from the 30s. Ugh, too many female actresses that scream. Oh yeah, I can always tell when I see my grandmother watching Dark Shadows. I always know it's Dark Shadows because there's just a woman screaming their head off, and I'm like, it would be hard to even be an actress during that time period and have to scream like that. I don't think I can scream like that. Sophia says, yes, I know what you're talking about. Fear. Yeah, I only watched the first episode of Fear the Walking Dead. I couldn't get into it. So let me finish this up so I can roll into Atlanta. Okay, while Victor and Ethan are in the woods, Victor does tell the little boy about that, how he also sees the boy in white. They both see the boy in the woods, and they drop rocks down a tree with a smiley face on it. And the rocks came back. But Victor panics when he hears a dog barking. The dogs in the woods surround Jim and Tabitha, but Victor scares them off with gunshots, which I didn't know. Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, where would he get the bullets? Because everything in the town, like, when you think about it, their food, their water, like the water, I could see them being able to get, but the food, how is the food replenishing itself if the people are there for an indefinite amount of time? Um, and still, Jim is being a weirdo about Victor talking to Ethan like he's going to do anything. Clearly, Victor is a man that's very childlike. He's not going to do anything to your child because he mentally is a child himself. Like there's no reason for you to overact like that. But Jim actually goes and talk and almost like snitches on Victor to Boyd and tells Boyd, "Well, will you tell him stop talking to my son?" Essentially. And I'm just like, Boyd is like, I got creatures to worry about. I had a whole town full of people. You'll be okay. And then finally, we see that Fatima makes a little like bed area for Julie in her and Ellis's room. Which I don't know. Am I the only person that doesn't like Ellis? I don't like Ellis at all. I don't like his personality. I just don't like nothing against the actor. I don't know that actor. It's my first time seeing him, but I don't like the character. The character is just I don't know. I don't like him. He's annoying to me. Let's see. I think the last thing that happened in the episode was Sarah getting the markings on her arm that say "kill the boy," and she has like a seizure or something at the diner. Like she looks at her arm, says "kill the boy," and then she has a seizure. And in the meanwhile, Victor starts digging graves, saying that he's getting a head start this time. Like, dude is like, I know some of y'all gonna fuck up. Let me just start digging graves now because Model T says Ellis just had an army pride and guilt. Mm, definitely. I'm going to do something a little bit different in talking about Atlanta. Oh, one more comment before I move on. The woman in the Covent House reminded me of Kathy Bates. Yes, she did. You mean Colony House, but yeah, she did. She had that same kind of gruff exterior. Victor said, "I've seen it all before." Mm-hmm. Well, you're level headed. Some fans would write death threats or personally find the actor to physically assault the actor. Yes, they would. Speaking of that, did you guys hear what happened to Homegirl that plays on Obi-Wan? She's getting like death threats and racist abuse. They're and when I mean abuse, they're in her inbox calling her the N-word and I don't know why some people are like this. It's not like we haven't had black people in Star Wars for over 40 years. Landau Calrissian. How are you? And the dumbness of the fact that I can accept all these creatures. I can accept Jawas and Hutts and I can accept Ewoks and I can accept whatever um Yoda is. I don't think I ever learned what the name of his creature is. But whatever Yoda, you can accept all of that. But you see melanin and you have a shit fit. Get the fuck out. That's just so it's irritating me. It's got to be a mental illness. It's a mental illness. Model T says, yes, Tony 100. Okay, for Atlanta, what I did is I actually found an article. Let me see if I can share my screen. Hopefully my computer was acting up, so hopefully it won't do that again. If it does, I might have to stop sharing my screen. Sophia says, yes, that's the modern incel white supremacists who are crying about replacement. Black actors have been in Star Wars since the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yep, she should post them and call them out. Did it happen to John Boyega? Yes, it did. Actually, she did. She ended up showing the post to Ewan McGregor, and he was the first person that really spoke up about it. I saw his video on Twitter, and then I don't know who posted the screenshots, but there's articles that have the screenshots of the messages that she was receiving. They did the same thing to the young Asian girl that was in the the second to most recent Star Wars. I don't remember her name, but it was a young Asian girl. She had bangs in Star Wars, and the same type of racial crap. Sophie says woke is synonymous with racism for a lot of the fans who use it. Yeah. And even them being afraid of the replacement theory, it shows not only their ignorance, but also how the American school system doesn't teach the truth. Because the truth is that European people and European American people have always been in minority. The majority of the world are melanated peoples, whether they're the 54 countries in Africa, the 50 something countries in Asia, Micronesia, the indigenous peoples of Central and South America. The only place where Europeans and European Americans have been the majority is in media or in their own minds. You've never been the majority, so you're not losing anything. The only thing you're losing is the illusion of you being the majority. Sophia says, yeah, it's like, what do they want for Hollywood to ignore the growing minority population and not cash in on that potential market? Yes, that's another good point, because a lot of them, they really think in a very Amerocentric point of view. Movies and television are not just made for Americans. And as I just mentioned, there's 54 countries in Africa. They have movie theaters there. There are billions of people in China. There's movie theaters there, and throughout all of Asia and Southeast Asia and Central and South America. These companies want money from everywhere. So yeah, you're going to see a Chinese character because they want Chinese people to come see the movie. You're going to see a South American character because they want South Americans to come see the movie. You're not the only group of people in the world that have dollars to spend, and they want those dollars. So get used to it. Not only that, but it just looks better to me. I like to see a bunch of different types of people. Tony Man 100 says, offended by a woman, but not offended by the alien Asian fish people on the starship or Jar Jar Binks. I was offended by Jar Jar Binks because I feel that they tried to make him sound like a Jamaican, and that they made it comical, like almost making fun of Jamaican accents in a way. Yeah, I thought he was a caricature. And then also within the same movie, the little flying creature with the snout, he sounded clearly Middle Eastern. And I'm like, I didn't like that. But the worst thing they did was the Queen Amidala clothing. That's not some made up clothing just for Star Wars. They literally took clothing that is specific to not the Han people, but it's a group of people in China. Is it Huns? It might be the Huns. It's a specific, forgive me for not remember the specific ethnic group in China, but that clothing comes from a specific ethnic group in China, including the makeup and the hair that Queen Amidala was rocking. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find a picture. You can't just take somebody's culture and then just be like, oh, this is alien. Like, no. Hang on one moment. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Sorry if I'm sniffling. I have allergies, and I don't want to take my medicine until I get off the stream because it makes me extremely tired. There we go. You could see right here. Let me see if I can get the picture larger. Hold on. You could see Queen Amidala in Star Wars, and this is the actual clothing in the Here's a real princess in Asia. I don't know. Let me see if I click on it. Visit page. Let's see if it'll tell me the specific ethnic group that they just quote unquote borrowed from. Oh, this is not an article. That is a that's a forum. That's not an article. I should have read that. It says forums, but you can see visually that they just literally just lifted it from a different culture and just said, "Oh, this is alien." Funny. Okay, let me go back to the comments. Here we go. Offended by a woman, but not offended by. Okay, that's what I left off on. And the next one, Sophia says, guess being a minority really must suck because alt-right keeps saying otherwise. They sure wouldn't want to have minority status. Guess it's all peaches and cream. There's a video. I don't know if you remember Jane. What is her name? It was a white woman that she's a civil rights activist. I know her first name is Jane, but for some reason her last name escapes me. And she proved that point by she was giving a speech, and she said to the people watching her speech, she said, I'm gonna prove a point right now. And she said to the people in the audience, if you're white and you want to be treated like a minority, raise your hand. And nobody raised their hand. And she said, I just proved to you that even you know that they aren't treated right because you would have raised your hand if you thought they were. Model T says, it's sad that we're still dealing with this in 2022. Folks are so fake when it comes to folks of color to get a major movie role. Mm-hmm. It's like Trump's fake trades war while making and having offshore businesses in China. Okay. Yeah. It's funny to me how his hats say made in China and the inside. The outside of the hat says make America great again. The inside of the hat says made in China. I'm like, you can't make this stuff up. So Sophia says it's just the modern incel trend. A lot of retro movies would have been classified as woke by today's standards, like Alien franchise. They're just gaslighting. Yes, there's so many things. Even as far as since it's June 1st, which we're going into Pride Month, I said this in one of my videos. I was talking about all the gay characters that we grew up seeing in movies, and nobody pitched a shit fit about it. When we saw Bronson Pinchot and Beverly Hills Cop, nobody wrote all these articles about it and pitched a fit. When we saw Hollywood and Mannequin, nobody made a fucking big deal about it. Like now, you put a gay character in there, they accuse it of being, oh, it's woke and diverse. I'm like, we've had diversity. I think what happened was for a short period of time, in somewhere in the mid 90s to the first 2010s, they actually went backwards instead of forwards. Because in the 80s and 70s, you watch just about any 70s or 80s movie, you're going to see all types of people in it. But for some reason, in the late 90s and early 2000s, everything got segregated again. And now people are acting like they're not used to seeing people of color. As a matter of fact, Beverly Hills Cop was the biggest grossing movie of that year when it came out. Tony Man says, I work in a place where some dude demanded his order be built using everything American. Little did he know we use Chinese wood, bolts, and nuts, and our Thai coworker built it. Still technically made in America. That your Thai coworker is Thai American. So Paul Mooney said it best. Yes. You're so right about Hollywood. Lady Shaw's dropping F-bombs. Oh, I didn't realize it. I was trying not to. But the further we go into the panini, the less F's I have to give. I used to try to be so professional, but it's really hard. Back then, the religious right were more focused on the satanic panic. That was the trend to complain about. Yes, which they brought up in Stranger Things. I don't know if you've seen the beginning of Stranger Things, where one of the characters is reading Stranger Things this season takes place in 1986. And the character of Eddie was reading a Newsweek article about how Dungeons and Dragons was satanic and it was causing children to not understand reality anymore. But I do remember the satanic panic. They accuse everything from rock music, rap music, video games. They accuse everything. But let me get into these last two episodes of Atlanta. We're on episode 3. Do you like trees? And I decided I was going to read this article that is from The Ringer. It's written by Eric Jenkins. It says it's breaking. I have not pre-read this article, so we're all reading it together. So I'm going to start here. It says, welcome to a London billionaire's playhouse. Inside, a scammer on roller skates, an actual Nando's, and a lot of white people with a lot of white guilt. And it says here, Atlanta season premiere 3 Slaps wasn't even the most significant slap content of the past several days. Much like the show's narrative focus, things can change quickly around here. You might still be processing the haunting of Lake Lanier, but ready or not, Atlanta is keeping things moving in Europe. As this week's grime music in the title card implies, we're now in the Brexit-liberated city of London. Which I think, if I'm not mistaken, they filmed in Europe because of COVID restrictions in America. I might be mistaken, but I think that's why they did that. Sophia says, I haven't seen it, but I know the religious right even played music backwards. LOL, when music like the Beatles, Penny Lane had the meaning of the songs in plain sight. Yes, I do remember that. They made a horror movie about that. What was it called? Trick or Treat? Where the boys played the record backwards. Also in The Gate, the little boys play the records backwards. Yeah, that was a thing that people believed in the 80s. Or maybe the 70s. It might have started in the 70s. It says here, we open on Earn leading the crew on a walkway through Hackney to meet up with Will. Presumably an industry colleague of Earn's, Will is going to introduce them to a billionaire investor who's keen to mingle with Paperboy. Now, this part, I'm going to jump back and forth from reading this to commenting. It's very interesting how they set this up, because when they go to meet Will, it looks like he's literally in the hood, and outside of the building, it looks kind of like a tenement house or something, just kind of really, really run down. But when they go inside of it, the first floor looks run down, but then when they go upstairs, it looks like this $1 million penthouse. So it's like they hid this really, really wealthy apartment within this hood aesthetic type of thing. I don't know what was going on with that. Model T says, I remember the gay 80s baby. Yes. And that little boy, the main little boy in it, he grew up to play on Blade. He played the evil character. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but that was the same little boy. Where am I on this? By the sounds of it, this investor, Fernando, has already financed some of Paperboy's exploits, and Earn believes there's an opportunity to extract even more money from him. Perhaps a marijuana prescription service with weed harvested by real, authentic Mexicans, as Darius suggests. And then they go on to say, oh yeah, Van is here too. The Van character actually grew on me this season. I never liked her in season 1 or 2. I just didn't like her. Matter of fact, that actress, the only thing I've liked her in is Deadpool 2. I liked her as Domino in Deadpool 2. But most of the time, I didn't like her until this season. She actually grew on me this season. A very intentional slow pan of the camera reveals she is tagging along. Van sort of just showed up last week in Holland, which we talked about last week. And throughout the series, she's often relegated to the side. And she does, I agree with that. She has become more of a main character this season. It feels like the Atlanta writers are on the cusp of either correcting or paying off the underdevelopment of her character. For now, we just know that Lottie is posted up with her grandparents, and that is currently unemployed Van. And that a currently unemployed Van has a new boyfriend who is either unaware or okay with her taking an extended vacation to hang out with her baby's daddy and ex-partner. I hate that they use the term baby's daddy. I wish they would have said father of her child, but they're trying to be, I guess, kind of kitschy, or trying to. I noticed with a lot of the writers of articles, they like to try to put a lot of slang in it to try to make it sound like they're down with the kids, but it just comes off a little like they're trying too hard. Just write the article. Okay, it says, you have a picture in your head about what a billionaire's house might look like. I don't, because I know that billionaires can have all different types of things. Because they're billionaires. They can have whatever the hell they want. And they're at the point when you become a billionaire, I don't think you're no longer like a normal person anymore. because I think something changes in a person when they can do whatever they want, wherever they want, whenever they want. It's got to change you. Fernando is here to prove that $1 billion goes a lot further than you can even dream. At first, it seemed like Earn entered the wrong address on Google Maps. The front of the place looks bombed out in World War II. Looks like it was bombed out in World War II. But Will comes down to fetch them and ushers them through dim, narrow hallways over shards of broken glass. Finally, they arrived at a rusty door where Will enters a code, and voila, the entrance opens up into a swanky, stylish room with a party in full swing. At the back, there was a decoy house, Darius surmises. But wait, there's more. This guy legitimately has a personal Nando's inside his apartment. This is hard as fuck, man, Al says for the first time. I've never heard of a Nando's. Is that regional? Because I've lived in the Northeast, in the tri-state area, and I've lived in the South. Um, I've lived in Miami for a while now. I'm in Orlando, but I've never heard of a Nando's. I've heard of even In-N-Out Burger, and I have never seen one, but I've heard of it. Oh, wait, let me go back. Tony Man says, LOL, just read the same article during lunch today. Oh, really? So she says, I don't mind the term baby daddy. It sounds kind of cute. Slang languages have always been in our vernacular since ancient times. It's just how language evolved. Oh, I agree with that. I just feel that I think there's a difference between when it comes natural to the person or to the speaker and when somebody's putting on. And I right now, I mean, it's too soon. I shouldn't have prejudged, but I kind of feel like because this is written, the writer is putting on a little bit. But I could be mistaken. This could just be the way they talk. Where is it? The Billionaires Playground becomes a fun house for Atlantis Quartet. Will brings Earn and Van to meet the artist, TJ, a young black Brit who at best is a knockoff of Jackson Pollock and at worst, read in reality, a wannabe hype beast influencer. TJ's art sucks. They wrote it with a lot of S's. And Earn knows it, but Will is convinced he's a genius. So much so that he already spent $500,000 housing TJ and is considering buying into the kid's plan to expand the rented space into an artist co-op. Will would cover the cost of everything, the shelter, studio space, food, laundry, even drugs, as TJ makes clear. In return, the co-op would use a revolutionary new business model to make its money back, selling subscriptions, which is literally kind of what YouTube is doing now with certain channels. You can sell subscriptions. Earn, apparently viewed as a savvy business mind having successfully managed Paperboy, knows the idea is worse than TJ's art. The only way he can escape the impromptu pitch meeting is to claim that he needs to talk to Doja Cat's people first. Now, what's interesting about this section of the story is that, I mean, art is subjective, but I'm one of those people that have always had a hard time dealing with the type of abstract art that just looks like paint splashed on a wall. Because it's like, how do you determine what paint splashed on the wall is worthy of purchase and what paint splashed on the wall is not? Like, I don't understand that. And I think what this episode is talking about is people trying to finance artists, but they themselves aren't really good at choosing art. They just feel good about, oh, well, this person is a minority and they're doing something artistic, but that particular person could just be bullshitting. And I think that's what this TJ character is meant to be like. Okay, I read that one. There's a Nando's in Maryland, Illinois, Virginia, and DC. And there's a Nando's Grills in Ocoee, but I don't think it's the same. So it's Maryland and Virginia are mid-Atlantic, but Illinois is Midwest. Very interesting. But it doesn't say Atlanta. Oh, Sophia says, yes, art certainly goes through trends and phases. Elsewhere, a misunderstanding over the meaning of the word trees has led to a surprise bond between Alfred and Fernando. Yeah, because Fernando asks Al if he wants to go, if he wants to see some trees. And he's like, sure. He's thinking trees as in weed trees. But he's literally talking about a tree, like this big ass old tree that he wants to show him. And of course, he's a little bit disappointed that this man took him to see a tree. Let me see here. And no, he's not the founder of Nando's. Al has an intense fondness for a certain kind of trees, but Fernando doesn't mean those kind of trees. Yeah, that's what I said. I'm going to skip through this. The notion comes to fruition not long after when Fernando and some friends host Alfred in a private game of poker. And typical surreal, which I talked about last week about the show being surreal. I think it was Tony Man that said in the article that was interviewing the director, or one of the directors of Atlanta. I kept comparing it to Twin Peaks, but the director himself called it a Black Mirror, which is very interesting. Tony Man says, remember there was a banana duck taped to a wall and sold, a banana duct taped to a wall and sold for mad cash. Also, potato photograph. Yeah, there was a potato photograph that went for something like $8 million, and all I could think is why couldn't that be me? Why couldn't I have thought of taking a photograph of a potato and getting paid millions of dollars for it? I don't, I don't know. I want something like that to happen to me. Well, it was nice hanging out with y'all. Have a nice rest of your day and later chat. Thank you so much for stopping by, Sophia. I really appreciate you. Next week, I will try to have a better slideshow and be more engaging because I know this week is not like my best format, but next week definitely will be better. Thank you so much again for stopping by. Okay, let me see. Where was I? In typical surreal Atlanta fashion, we're treated to a bizarre story from Fernando in which he encounters the ghost of a naked, soaking wet black man who cleansed him with a spiritual connection before excreting a layer of ectoplasm all over him. Ghosts seem to be an early theme of this season, which we did see in episode 1 when the ghost grabbed that guy and pulled him under the water of Lake Lanier. Let's see. After Al understandably concludes that a ghost, I don't know if I'm getting in trouble for saying this word on the stream, a ghost expels his fluids all over Fernando. He promptly lays down 4 aces and bilks the billionaires out of the rest of his chips. But instead of paying, Fernando runs out of the room without a word. Soon the rest of his friends do the same, and we're left to wonder whether Paperboy just played a game of poker with himself, which is messed up because if they're supposed to be millionaires, they should pay him. The oddities don't stop there. Darius, perusing the appetizers in the bar, tries to get the attention of a woman. Oh, this part right here. I'm not even going to read this part. I'm going to talk to you about this part. So he goes up to this woman just to ask her something about, I think he asked her to hand him something. And she just turns around and she's like, no, thank you. And he was like, well, I wasn't asking you for anything, but to pass the whatever. I think it was crackers or wine or something. And she was like, oh, it's just because where I'm from in LA, a lot of black men hit on me because I'm Asian, which that could be the case. And I've never lived in LA, so that could be the case in LA. So she says that, and this takes such a turn because there's another guy there that overhears this, and it's a white dude. And he goes and tells all the other white people at the party about what just happened. And so they all turn on her and start calling her a racist and that she needs, and it's like, oh, you got to get out of here, you're racist. And it was just so funny how it just snowballed. That one little comment that Darius himself just blew off like, no big deal. Okay, this chick is weird, so I'm going about my business. But they really made it snowball into something else. Let me see what else. Socks was according to this article, because I don't remember hardly. What's funny, I remember the people's names in From, but I don't remember the tertiary characters' names in Atlanta. I just remember the main characters' names in Atlanta. Let me skip down. Well, no, I'm going to read this part. It says a white dude nearby named Socks approaches shortly after and denounces MK's comment. Oh, nah, that's lightweight, Darius responds, but Socks is having none of it. I got you, he says. In no time, the entire party has heard about MK's comments. Had to tell him about the racism, man, Socks explains, which leads to a multiple white women crying, one of whom sobs, I'm not okay. Some dude calling MK the C word, and Socks describing the experiences as some 12 years of slave shit. Darius can only muster one word in response. What? It's a great scene, though. The way that they acted it out, it's a really great scene. Because the time is moving so fast, I really need to hurry up so I can jump into episode 3, but I want to tie up that part with the little boy with the roller skates. I shouldn't call him a little boy; he's a grown man. But anyone anyone under 25 to me is a little boy because I'm an old ass lady. Okay, Will is just trying to figure out this landscape as well. Remember, Will is the millionaire that's introducing Earn to the billionaires. As it turns out, MK is his fiance, or rather was his fiance, since he makes a quick decision to break off the engagement in light of her actions because he found out that she made the racist comment. As for Earn, he's left with the choice of whether or not to take advantage of Will's guilt. White kids be scamming all the fucking time. Hell, you think TikTok is? Paperboy tells Earn, which is true. That's the truer words have not been said. Shit, black kids need to scam more. Not long after, TJ himself thanks Earn in advance for putting in a good word to Will. If this fool wants to pay me for the culture, then let him. I see how these white folks are all the time. What's wrong with me just showing them who I am? And I can't disagree with it. Like, even though his art is crap and he's full of shit, I can't disagree with him. His hustle, basically. Let me see. Before I move on, did you guys see episode 3? Do you have any thoughts on episode 3, and any thoughts on scamming or taking opportunities, whichever way you look at it? Oh, wait a minute. Also, why am I doing this? Let me make sure that I credit the author and the source. I've been reading from The Ringer, and the author is Eric Jenkins. I think I'm pronouncing their name correctly. But thanks for writing this, anyways. It gave me something good to bounce off of as far as doing this review. Let me I thought the Old Man and the Tree was a very interesting episode. It wasn't one of my favorites like of the whole season. At the time I was really impressed with it, but as the season went along, the episodes got better and better and better. So this episode was like it was good, but it wasn't my favorite. Let's talk about episode 4 if it pops up here. This one is really, really interesting because I think that I'm not going to read this article. I'm just putting this image here. This is the main character in the in the episode. And the title of the episode is called The Big Payback, which when I hear The Big Payback, I automatically think of the James Brown song, The Big Payback. Tony Man says, good question. Sorry, I spilled half of my dinner on a rug trying to scoop it up. Oh, damn. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope some of it can be salvaged. This episode surrounds what would happen or hypothesizes what would happen if people were to pay personal reparations. And I think the episode actually explores. Sorry, I got a notification. I think that the episode explores a fear that a certain segment of European Americans have. I think that the events in the episode probably would never ever happen, but I think some people have a legitimate fear that this is what would happen to them. But here's the thing. Our government has paid reparations to various groups of people, and at no time have they sent the public individual bills. No, when they gave reparations, I want to say they gave reparations to the Japanese that were in internment camps. If you are European American watching this, ask your grandparents did they receive a bill for that. Most likely they did not, because it just came from the government. And I believe if reparations were to be a thing, same thing would happen. It would come from the government, not from individuals. Also, if you're wondering, oh, well, where can the government get this money? The same place to get the money for military spending. They can come up with it when they want to. Ask Ukraine. But I digress. This episode definitely builds off the fears of a certain segment of European Americans. And in this character, what happens to him in the episode is that he ends up having to pay reparations directly to the descendant of I believe she was a descendant of slaves that his family formerly owned, even though he thought his family didn't own slaves. So that's the framework that is happening in this episode. What's interesting is they did make it more of a dramedy. I think it probably would have been too heavy if they made it straight drama. So it's very comedic in tone, even by having the descendant of slaves woman be named Shaniqua, which is a super stereotypically black name. And you'll also notice that the same gentleman that was in a boat in episode 1 that was telling the other gentleman about the history of Lake Lanier also shows up in this episode at the hotel. Like after this guy pretty much loses everything because like literally he gives up his apartment back to Shaniqua and he ends up living in a hotel. And he at the hotel that gentleman is there too and he says that he lost his bag. And then after that he just kind of goes out in the back and pretty much shoots himself. It was a very interesting episode to watch. I'll say that it definitely felt this one rather than me comparing it to Twin Peaks or even Black Mirror. It kind of felt Twilight Zone-y. I mean, there was a bit of Black Mirror in it, but it felt very Twilight Zone-y to me too. I don't know what. Tony Man says one of my favorite quotes was when he slammed his door and she yells out, "Don't slam my door." I don't know. Can you guys hear any background noise? Just wanting to check. Let me see if this article. Shout out to Rolling Stone. They don't. This must be an article written by committee. Oh no, it's not. There's the article's writer up there. Alan Sepinwall wrote this article. It's a recap, but he titles the recap "Reversal of Fortune" instead of the title of the actual episode, which is "The Big Payback." And he writes, an anthology-style episode sees an average white guy named Marshall Johnson struggling with the institution and fallout of reparations in America. Well, the thing about it is, like I said, he's struggling more with a fictionalized view of reparations that really plays into the fears of a certain group of Americans. I don't think this is, I mean, it really seems like someone sat and wrote down, okay, this is what this group of people is afraid of. Let's act it out to see what it would be like to show them this is what you're afraid of. Let's show you on the screen the exact things that you think that are going to happen to you. No, what did you guys think of? Oh, I have another comment here. Dude gave a great soliloquy before shooting himself in the head. Yes, he did. Well, I think what I'm going to do is get out of here because it's after 8 o'clock already. And I don't know. I don't really have much else to say about this episode. That's all I had to say about this episode. And I don't want to just drone on and on and on. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Let me go ahead and stop sharing this screen and then put my outro out. And we'll all have a good night. Good night.
Hey, 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 hey.